All right, if you remember yesterday, we learned that the fact that Rosh Hashanah falls on the second and third day of the week is a big indication that Moshiach is infinitely closer than we can possibly imagine. And how? Because the world was created on the first day, Yom Rishon. And Rosh Hashanah can never fall on the first day. So when Rosh Hashanah falls on the second and the third day, that's as close as you can have to the first day. What's that got to do with Mashiach? This Rosh Hashanah is the holiday when man was created. And man was created in order to fix up the world. So when man was created, and when the world was created, right, which that whole ended on Rosh Hashanah. When man was created, that was the completion of the creation of the world. Back there 5,783 years ago. So when man was created, it seemed that there was something separate from God. There was competition. That was the second day. On the third day, when man did what God wanted, he was supposed to, in any case, do what God wanted, then we realized that this world is here to have a whole new thing, a whole new type of blessing, a harmony, that God can be revealed in the world, a whole new level of godliness that was incomprehensible, that was, how do you say, could not be revealed before the world was made. That's the reason why God made the world. I mean, a person can ask a question, 1 second. The world was created 5,700 whatever years ago. What happened before that? It was all that time, God was just bored, doing nothing. So the answer to that is there was no time. There was no being. We have no idea what it was. But right now, every moment of creation now is infinite. In a way, it's even more infinite than what it was before the creation. Because now it can be used, that's the second day, the creation can be used to give God pleasure. That's the third day, a new thing. Every detail of the world can be infinite if we put meaning into it, if we do what God wants. If we use the world properly, then the world becomes real. And in fact, it becomes the only real reality. Before the world was created, so to speak, there was nothing real. It was just the oneness of God. Who knows what that means? I mean, that's the same, what it is now also. That was a little bit revealed in the Holy of Holies. True reality. In the Holy of Holies, by the way, it was limited and it was above limit. The Holy of Holies had to be according to certain measures, and the ark that was there also had to be exact certain measures. And it says that those measures were not measurable. That they would lower people down to clean it out. When they would measure the ark, it didn't take up any space. The whole room was 20 amas, and from one end of the ark to one wall was 10 amas. From one wall, it was 10 amas, so the ark didn't take up any place. That's what the world is. There's time and there's no time together. Time, but it's infinite. That's also hinted at what's called Pat Bag HaMelech. Remember that we said that Pat Bag HaMelech, it's a sentence right in the beginning of the book of Daniel that says that the king Nebuchadnezzar, he took all of the wise men of Israel and he treated them very well because he wanted to glean from their wisdom. And he gave them Pat Bag HaMelech. He gave them the choice food of the king. And that's what it says, Pat Bag. There's different opinions what this means, but everybody agrees it's food. So the rabbis say that here we have a big hint at HaMelech is referring to Rosh Hashanah, and Beit Gimel is referring to the second and the third day of the week. When Rosh Hashanah falls on the second day of the week, then then we break it up. What do we break up? The two Torah portions that we read, Nitzavim V'Yelech. This week we read Nitzavim. Next Shabbos we'll read V'Yelech. Pat vayelech. It says that vayelech is separated. Pat vayelech. The cave, and since my fire pointer over here. There we go. That since that everything in the Torah is very, very exact, so we can understand that with these signs that the Torah gives, which were set by the great wise men of Israel, there must be there to tell us something, to remind us of something very special. These words must have a special meaning to them in themselves. Pat Bagamelech, what? Pat Bagamelech, this thing of that the king Nebuchadnezzar gave the wise men of Israel this food of the king, pat bag, hu machal melech. This is the food, the special choice food of the king. I think this means belushan in the language of Kazdim, the language of, what is it, Kazdim? How do you say it in English? Kazdim, I don't know. That's what Rashi says. So it says, Mitame lechem machal melech is the gematria pat bag. Matame lechem machal melech. All these words, if you take the numerical value, it comes to the gematria of pat bag. Pei is 80, tough is 400, and etc. Okay. So it says over there that the king gave them this pat bagamel, the special food of the king, umiyayin mishto, and from the wine of his banquets, whatever, certain type of wine that the king would drink. I mean, you can ask a question: how could it be? I mean, a Jew is not allowed to drink wine that was touched or made by a non-Jew. So they must have made the wine themselves. Who know what? Maybe they watched how the wine was made. Namely, okay, so what's this got to do with anything? On Rosh HaShana, which that's called HaMelech, that's called the king, King's Day, that's the day we coronate God. So God, the king, he provides, the king of the world, to each and every Jew all that he needs. That's called the food of the king for the whole entire year. Every single day on its own time. But tachlit harchava, from the ultimate, how do you say, wideness, from the banquet of the king. This refers to everybody. Every Jew receives from the hand of the king. Now, Jews, it's supposed to be, and it pretty much is. Jews are, generally speaking, they are generous people. It's one of the signs of the Jews is they're generous. Jews like to give charity. Jews do not like to be cheated. Jews, usually speaking, are not stingy people. They're how do you say, they're frugal, if you want to call it. They don't waste their money. This is not, of course, every Jew is different. We can't make these general sweeping generalizations, right? But one of the signs of a Jew is that they like to give charity. So it says, the Rosh Hashanah, God will give to all of the Jews all they need, like the hand of the king. This is especially when Rosh Hashanah comes on Bag, Beit Gimel. Beit Gimel, Pat, Vayelech, then is broken up, Vayelech. Shemachalkim Nitzavim Vayelech, the Torah portions of Nitzavim and Yelech, they're separated to two. That's the whole sign of Pat. There is separation when there is Bag HaMelech, when there is a Melech. Rosh Hashanah falls on Sunday and Monday. Shebezeh, then in this, Maroon was it's hinted that Vayomen lo Melech Dvar Yom B'Yomo, that the king provided for them every day mi Pat Bag HaMelech, from his special food, as it has to be. Vayeshnu mitzad etzem mitziutam shel Yisrael. Why does God give all of the, God is the king? Why does he give us this special food? Because we're Jews. That's the thing of Nitzavim. Nitzavim means all the Jews are standing. Remember, we talked about that before. That's just how the Jew stands in heaven. The essence of the Jewish soul. Gam lulei avodatam, without doing any work. They get free bread. That's what it means, pat vayelech. Vayelech is indicating, remember we learned that yesterday. Vayelech, that's next week's Torah portion. He walked, he went. That's how the Jews serve God. But nitzavim, that's how the Jews are standing before they begin to serve God. This week's Torah portion, the nitzavim, just the fact that a Jew is a Jew, this already entitles him to receive from the bread of the king, the bread from the banquet, the table of the king. Like we said before, the Mishnah, like it says that the foreman has to provide for his workers. If you hire Jewish workers, even if you give them, you have to feed them. And even if you what do you have to feed them? It says, even if you feed them like one of the meals of King Solomon, you have not fulfilled your obligation. Because the Jewish people, they're the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. What do you mean? That's the essence. That's what a Jew is. Magid Dvar Yaakov, Chukov Mishpat of Yisrael. God gave his laws to all the Jewish people. All the Jewish people. What God does, as he says that we have to do, that God has to give, what God commands us to give charity. God commands us that if we have workers, we have to give them food, and it has to be good food. That's the commandment to us. Well, God also has to do these commandments. That God has to, so to speak. That's the way God set it up. He has to give every single Jew, we're his workers. Kasuda Shlomo Kashaita, like the meal of King Solomon in its time. Not just what's de machzoro shech sarlo, not just food that fills up. I say it satisfies our lacking, so we're not hungry anymore. Not just to satisfy our hunger. That this includes also sus l'rochav alav ve'evel l'rutz l'fanav. If a person used to be rich, so it's our commandment, we have to make him rich again. He's called poor. That's not enough. Elegam la'oshro, you have to make him rich. V'od la'ashirus l'shlomo b'shaita. So what's the Rebbe saying? A worker, there's a law. A worker has to be paid, has to be fed. Has to be fed. Why? So it's not just a regular worker, a Jewish worker. If you hire a Jewish worker, he has to be fed, right? What if he didn't do a good job? Doesn't make any difference. You can, if you want to, you could do with that at the end of the day. But the fact is you have to feed him. He says, okay, I'll give him a peanut butter and jam sandwich. He says, no, that's not enough. You have to provide him with a meal of like King Solomon. He says, come on, I'll ask him, what do you usually eat at home? Usually at home I eat, tuna fish sandwich. Okay, so I'll give him a tuna fish sandwich. No, it's not enough. You can't just fill his hunger. You have to give him a meal like King Solomon. Say, okay, listen, you like meat? Oh yeah, meat, but who has money for meat? Here you go. Here's a meal, a big steak. You get this is what you get. This is what you get every day. He says, why? Why do I get this? Because you're a Jew. I'm the boss. You're my worker. It's a law in the Torah. I have to provide you with food like King Solomon, unless I make an agreement. If I make an agreement before and say, I'm only going to give you peanut butter jam sandwiches, then that's the agreement. Then you agree to relinquish your rights. But if no agreement, then you can demand, that's the law. It says, if that's the way it works in the physical world, it's a commandment from God. Well, the fact is that God does all of the commandments he commands us to do. God has commandments. If so, the same thing here. God has to provide for us, not just what's lacking, so we don't have any troubles, but God, it's a commandment to make us rich, to give us a meal of King Solomon in his time. Solomon ruled the whole world. From this we can understand also in regarding the judgment of Rosh Hashanah. There's no place that we can say that, well, maybe we'll be found guilty on Rosh Hashanah. And Rosh Hashanah, I did a lot of sins. I didn't know what I was supposed to. Maybe I'm going to be judged. God forbid. right? And get what I deserve. Says there's no place to think things like that. Why? Why not? This whole argument, which goes up in heaven between your sins that you did and your commandments that you did. There's the commandments, the good things, that's the right side, and the sins are the left side. This is only in regarding to serving God. If you served, if you didn't serve, but from your essence, who you are, you're a Jew, then certainly, according to all opinions, the law is that God has to give us with his right hand, the right hand of the king, Pat Bagamelech, right? It's like, let's say somebody did all sorts of, they bring someone, the prosecutor says, Your Honor, Your Majesty, you're judging this case. We have somebody that he pulled up all the flowers in the garden. The king said, what? He did, and he hunted in the king's forests. He did what? I don't understand. And he wrote on the side of the castle, the king is an idiot. Wow, this is terrible. Bring this person forward. He brings it forward. It's your son. My son. Okay, well, listen, usually the punishment for doing anything like that is death. But because it's my son, so I mean, I got to do something to him. He did bad things, but it's my son. You know what? So, listen, don't do it again. Okay? Don't do it again. You can come into the palace. I'll give you food. But listen, do me a favor. You're my son. You know, I can't. Don't do it again. From what we do, so there's judgment. But from who we are, as God has to, that's what's called Pat Bag HaMelech, that God is the king. Rosh HaShana, HaMelech, Rosh HaShana is also the king, falls on Beit Gimel. So we're reminded that God is the king and he has to give us Pat Bag, he has to give us the best food that he has. And especially, even regarding to what we actually did, Bevadai, Rabu al-Mazachim. Certainly there's more good than bad. Here's a very interesting thing, my friends. Maimonides says that a person is judged according to what good deeds he did and bad. And if the bad deeds are more, then the person gets punished. And if the good deeds, and the judgment is very, very severe. And God, of course, has the power of life and death. He can do whatever he wants to. He judges according to good deeds against bad deeds. But who gives the value? Let's say I did 100 bad deeds and I did one good deed. I helped an old lady across the street. That's it. But all sorts of bad things I did, right? So now it's brought in front of the court, and the prosecuting judge says, look what this person did. Look at that. He did this, 100 bad things. He said, did he do anything good? He helped an old lady across the street. God says, oh, he helped an old lady across the street. For that, you get 1,000 points. What about all these bad things that he did? So, well, this one he gets like a 1/100th of a point, and this he gets 100 bad things altogether, 1 point against him. So, but that's not right. Come on, you're not prosecuting anybody. I'm bringing all these cases against him, all this proof here. I got videos and everything, all the bad things that he did. One good thing he did. You're going to say that's right. I'm God. I decide what's the value of a good deed, and I decide the value of a bad deed. Next case. That's what it says. According to all the opinions, even according to what we did, for certainly our merits are more than our, our debts. Why? Because all the Jews, because all the Jews are, every Jew, we can suppose that he's good. And even if he did bad in the past, so probably he's going to change from now on. And especially after Avodas Tshuva, after a person did repentance and Tshuva and returning in the month of Elul and the days of Slichot. The Zadanos Nasel Kozachios, it says that the purposeful sins, they become merits. Why? Because a Jew says, wow, God, I did these sins, and the reason I did it was because I thought I was the king. And now I realize what a mistake I made. You're the king. Wow. I'm never going to trust myself again. When it comes to Torah and the commandments, it's, you're going to be the boss. That's a deeper type of a tshuva. A normal person just does what God wants, and he leaves it that way. Why should I do bad things? Why drive on the wrong side of the street? Right? But when a person suddenly realizes, wow, God is the king, right? Now he's not just doing things for himself. He's doing things because that's the king wants him to. Zechius Mamish, until the sins actually transform into merits. Let me give you a little example. Two people came yesterday and they fixed, in my house, there's an elevator. Why there's an elevator is a different story, but there's an elevator. And once in a while it gets stuck. So the two people came and they fixed the elevator. Israeli guys. And I was giving the class yesterday. They heard me sound the shofar. They were very impressed by this. And I went out and my wife said, they want you to sound the shofar. So I sounded the shofar. So I asked one of them went up to fix something and to get his tools or something. And I asked the other one to put on tefillin. He says, no, I put on tefillin every day. I have a pair of tefillin. I put on tefillin. I do it every day. So I said, he said, oh, but my partner, he's the boss. The other guy, he's the boss. He says, don't ask him because he's really against the whole thing. He's not going to put on. He's not going to, I heard him talk. He's not going to put on tefillin. Just don't even ask him. Don't waste your time. So I said, listen, every Friday I go down to the market, this big market, and I put tefillin on people that don't do it, that don't want to do it. He says, yeah, but he's different. He's okay. So anyway, he comes down on the elevator. The boss comes down on the elevator. And I take out the tefillin. I say, okay, come on, let's put on tefillin. So he says, okay, but I don't know how. So I saw this other guy. He was like, he took like a step back, he didn't want to say anything because he didn't want to wreck it up. So I said, okay, so I put the tefillin on. I told him how to do it, and he did, and he made the blessing and everything. It was really this. And the other guy, I said to him, you never put on tefillin? He said, I don't know. Maybe I did it by bar mitzvah. I don't really remember. And the other guy, he wanted to say something, but he realized that anything he would say would just wreck the whole thing up. He wanted to say, I don't believe you put on tefillin. That guy would say, yeah, but it's the last time, it was a mistake. He just kept quiet. What does it mean? I put on tefillin. This guy puts on tefillin. He puts on it. This person never put on. Ooh. It made all the days that he didn't put on, it elevated them all. This is a person that never put on tefillin. He's got no reason to put on tefillin. He's not going to go to heaven. He doesn't care about heaven. Doesn't care about hell. Why did he do it? Right? He could have just easily said to me, no, I don't do that. And there's a lot of people that do, right? He could have said, no, I'll do it later. I don't want to. Sure, 100%. And I also asked him in a way that wasn't like, intrusive or, forced. So it ends up that the bad things that he did become merits. He put on tefillin. Why would he put on tefillin? He didn't do it because his mother told him, his father told him, because God told him. He did it because he's a Jew. He did it just because he's a Jew. And putting on tefillin is not just, you press a little button or something. It's a whole big process. You got to put this box on your arm and wind it around, and another box on your head. You have to make sure that it's there, and you say a couple sentences from, Shema Yisrael. So the whole thing takes 2-3 minutes, 4 minutes. So that's what it means. The bad things become merits. That's what's Rosh Hashanah. If a person goes on Rosh Hashanah and says, God, listen, I'm sorry, but everyone will be written and sealed in the book of Tzaddikim Gemorim immediately for life, for a good year, a sweet year in physical and spiritual together. And this we're going to finish, God willing, tomorrow. Friday, there will be a class tomorrow, and there'll be a class today at 3:00 also. But as I said before, and I'll tell you again tomorrow, there will not be any more official classes in the morning for the month of Tishrei. I will put up classes on YouTube, so you can look up on YouTube and how long the classes will be and how this will be. I will see, because I'm going to be traveling, God willing, to the Rebbe on Wednesday night, and I'll be there until after Shabbat Bereshit, which is approximately 3.5 weeks. Okay, my friends, we got to do the Yom Yom. The procedure of making meat kosher for eating, right? There's a law that if you want to boil meat, you have to take the blood out first. If you want to roast it, you don't have to do anything. Just put it over the fire, and the fire draws out the blood. But if you want to boil meat, then you have to take out the blood. How do you take out the blood? First of all, you have to soften the meat up a little bit. You have to soften it up so the blood will come out. That's called soaking. Hashra. Then after that, you put it into salt. Then after that, you rinse the salt off. These three concepts in avoda. Soaking means immersing yourself. Soaking, immersing yourself in the words of the Rebbe, the Maimorim, the Sichos, the speeches. Salting, that's being face to face with the Rebbe. Yechidas, private audience. Nowadays we have Igros Kodesh. Well, you can. And rinsing, that's a Hasidic song that washes you off. And now the sounding of the shofar. Okay, have a good day with Moshiach now. God willing, at 3 o'clock, we'll learn the Haftorah of this week's. One second, let me just go this off, and then we'll talk. This week's Haftorah from Isaiah, worthwhile to be there. Don't miss it.